You know the story of the lottery? There's a town, and every year they celebrate this lottery. As soon as one lottery year is over, they prepare for the next one. And they bake pies, and there's excitement and festivities and cooking. And then it comes time for the lottery, and everyone's name is in a box or whatever. And then they can't wait, all this drama, and this pull up the name, and the lady screams, "No, no, no, there must have been a mistake. That can't be me." And everyone picks up a stone and stones her to death. The moral of the lottery story is to question things. Just because something is handed down generation, and you're told that's the way it's supposed to be, doesn't make it right. The birds are like that lottery story. Nobody has questioned it. Nobody stood up to ignorance. Nobody's done anything to make a significant change. This is Gilcrease Nature Sanctuary in Las Vegas. I don't care what's going on. There's never an excuse for something like this. And I love how they have the name Nature Sanctuary. There's nothing nature or sanctuary about it. This is how much the line is blurred. You see these birds in this enclosure? This is Wyatt's Second Chance Ranch in Texas. Like it says that, oh, they took in a horde or animal cruelty, and now they're living well. What? This is living well? It's one cruelty to another cruelty. Oh, because it's clean and they're fed, and looks like there's some kind of breeding box in there, and that perch right there is horrible for their feet, especially for Amazons. They like little branches. So you got people that know nothing about the species, putting them in these weird enclosures, looks like there's a breeding box or something, and thinking this is right. And worst of all, they're begging the public for money to pay for this. They're begging the public to contribute to their prisoners. This may seem perfectly fine to most people because that's how they're used to seeing birds. And this is part of, I guess, Wyatt's Second Chance Ranch. And he says he took in an animal horde, a cruelty. It's one cruelty place to another cruelty place. This is not a quality of life. And the worst part is, now they're here. We've monetized them. They're exploited. And the vision is so blurred that the exploiters call themselves rescues and sanctuaries. And social media has added a whole nother level of exploitation besides photo opportunities and making them do stupid tricks, flying next to a car, doing silly things, swearing, whatever. They're robbed of their teleology. There are prisoners. They have to fly on command, return with a clicker, do whatever we want. They don't ever get to make their own choices. And if they do, they're punished for it. I once had a scarlet macaw, Dalton. He was the most beautiful scarlet I've ever seen. And that's why he was performed at a hotel, at a casino, and a bird show many years ago. And to train him to do his tricks, they electric shocked that bird. That's what they did to Dalton, so he would learn his tricks. And one time I was sitting down, I was watching him outside. He's free up in his thing. And I saw him spin around on one leg. And it made me sick to my stomach that they electric shocked him to do it. And there he was performing his stupid circus trick. At first glance, people see this and go, wow, that's so cool. Look at all those birds suspended in this air. And it's horrific. Or look at this macaw. It has to live with dead animals and a taxidermy macaw. Is that a quality of life to keep them in something like this? We see this and just accept it as perfectly fine and normal, and that's how it should be. Is this a quality of life? Does this make them exceptional bird owners? Because their enclosures are big and they have jungles painted on the walls and they have toys. Does this mean that life is okay? These birds are okay. This is good living. Most people think it is. Most people think these birds are lucky to live in that weirdo dungeon inside of a shop, a cage in a cage in a cage. Is this a good life for that bird? You really think it has a great life? My birds go flying right over it. This photo here is at Wyatt's Second Chance Ranch in Texas, where he thinks this is exceptional and he is the perfect bird owner. And this enclosure is the best life possible for this bird. It's horrible. This bird, it lives in this cage with this guy above him, and this bird is let out when he feels like letting it out or when he thinks the weather is acceptable. Here he is making all the decisions for this bird, for his prisoner. And worse, he wants you, the public, to fund his prisoner. He wants the public to fund all of his prisoners. This right here is Gilcrease Nature Sanctuary, Las Vegas. It doesn't matter how big the cage is, or the enclosure, or the caged flight, or how clean it is, or how much food you give them. It's no quality of life. They're built for flight. This right here is so wrong. See that 2x4 they have as a perch? Think about it. A bird in a cage spends its entire life on its feet. It's never off its feet. Its entire life is on its feet. And you give them a 2x4, that's not right. They don't like that. They develop atrophy. They have cramps. It's horrible. They like little branches. They don't like those weird dildo-looking things that Wyatt's ranch had. All these images should be equally as disturbing, but nobody sees anything wrong with them until. But when we see this, we're absolutely mortified, horrified, immediate action, and it should be the exact same with a bird. Exact same thing, except cages are actually meant for people that are criminals. Back to the 2x4 and those birds in the cage. Do you see how he's holding little branches? They prefer to hold little branches than those big, weird things that eventually, it's painful for them. They're on their feet their whole life, and they only have something that will cripple them. Someone once brought me an Amazon, Shiloh was its name, in this little cage. And when I opened the cage, it wouldn't come out. It was cage bound for about 3 days. Then it took off out of that cage. It did not like people. It had its own route in the neighborhood, and for 8 years, that bird flew all over the place, lived in Nevada, here where we have windstorms like riptides. The weather gets cold and extremely hot, and Shiloh survived. There's certain people that put food out for it, and it loved its life. That bird was so happy. And those 8 years of it flying all around, darting all around, were better than if it was still alive today and sitting in a cage. And see right here in this photo, those are hybrid macaws. These are my flying rainbows. But you see how he's working his beak to open a macadamia nut? Watch what he'll do. He'll go down to the wood and he'll sharpen his beak the way he wants so he can open up that nut better. You see what he's doing right here with the wood? Now, most people look at that and, oh my God, he's going to get a splinter in his tongue. Oh my God, he's going to eat that wood and choke. This is essential. Look at him. He's getting his beak in the proper shape to open the nut. That's what he's doing right here. And to deprive him of chewing on these things, because we think they're going to get splinters or swallow those wood pieces, is the way we think and feel, not how they think and feel. Look at, he knows exactly what he's doing to get his beak to open this nut. Look at him. He got that nut open and he's eating it. And it's not, oh my God, he's going to get swallow the shell or it's going to hurt him. They know what they need to do. That's Ernie. Isn't he beautiful? This sign is in Griffith Park at the old Los Angeles Zoo. This Griffith Park Canyon area served as a city zoo from its founding in 1912 to 1965. That's like almost 50 years. When the Los Angeles Zoo moved to its current location about 2 miles north of where you are currently standing, many of the walls, grottos, and other enclosures you see today were built in the 1930s by County Relief Workers and Works Progress Administration, WPA. Once bears, lions, monkeys, macaws, goats, elephants, reptiles, and turtles, among others, lived here. And the sounds of their growls, roars, calls, and clamor filled this canyon. Although these historic enclosures are no longer appropriate for housing animals, they can be home to memories of family visits to the Griffith Park Zoo, as well as an opportunity to better understand developments in the zoological sciences. Please enjoy and respect the buildings, walls, and habitats you will discover today. Now, of every animal on that list, there have been improvements in their conditions and living standards and quality of life, except macaws. Macaws has regressed. The only species on that list that has regressed. Here are the enclosures or caged flights, whatever you want to fancy word spin on the prison, that are today, by Griffith Park standards, no longer acceptable. But we keep macaws in these cages, and worse, much worse. By no means am I the perfect bird owner. But what you're seeing right here is a better life than any enclosure. That's their enclosure. It's the sky. These birds make their own choices, do what they want. They wake up with excitement and adventure. Have I had tragic experiences? Of course I've had. And those horrific experiences last in my memories. But nothing's meant to live forever, and my birds died free. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most advanced thinkers of our time, a true genius. He drew photos of the helicopter before we had helicopters. When he saw a bird in a cage, he paid for the bird to be released. So here you have one of the smartest individuals ever setting an example that they should not be caged, that they're not here for our entertainment. They are not here for us to exploit. But then comes along Christopher Columbus, who infects North America with syphilis. And when he returns to the King and Queen of Spain, he brings 2 scarlet macaws, which represented to regular people, nobility and royalty and a perceived value. And since then, nobody has questioned this ignorant practice and old thinking. They're simply here for our entertainment and exploitation. We decide what level of suffering is acceptable, and we apply that to every species. In today's world, I'm well aware it's not realistic to set every bird free, especially since most of them have had their wings clipped when they were young and don't have the capability of flight. But what it does mean is that we can stop crippling them from birth, stop subjugating the species, and like the Los Angeles Zoo said, improve. We can also create some places in the United States where they are allowed to live their life without a cage, with trees and food and shelter provided. It's the least that we could do as a society.